Hi, and welcome to the Hadassah Collective podcast. I'm your host, Claire Marinan. The Hadassah Collective is a unique, wellness-centered community created in and inspired by India, the birthplace of holistic health disciplines. The Hadassah Collective podcast brings together a carefully curated selection of my most trusted and inspiring innovators from every area of the health and wellness space. I invite my guests to freely share their gifts, their wisdom, their journeys, and their diverse points of view, discussing a vast range of topics including shutdown and self-isolation strategies, integrated diet and fitness, yogic science, modern mental health, and holistic lifestyle, all to inspire you with relatable tools to help you consciously customize, support, and expand your life. In today's episode, I'm joined by Niraj Naik, the Renegade Pharmacist and also the founder of Soma Breath. Today we'll be discussing his journey in wellness, starting off as a pharmacist in the UK and then being diagnosed and dealing with his own chronic pain. When modern Western medicine failed to heal his illness, he then began to study alternative modalities for healing and then healed himself, and now he shares his knowledge with others. Hi Niraj, welcome to the Hadassah Collective. Thank you so much for joining me. Niraj, otherwise known as the Renegade Pharmacist. I'm so excited for you to come and share your journey. I think it's super transformative for our listeners, and I think everyone will get a lot out of it. So welcome, thanks for being with me.
Great, it's a pleasure to be here. Fantastic.
Good. How are things going with you? How are you feeling right now? Where are you in quarantine or lockdown? Describe that for our listeners, what that looks like for you.
Sure, yeah. We're actually in like a very, very fortunate place. We're in an island called Koh Phangan, which hasn't really had any cases. So they've pretty much at one point quarantined the island off. So it's been very relaxed here. The beaches are open. All the properties are super cheap. So we've rented an amazing villa for the entire Soma team. And, now things are like pretty much back to normal. A lot of the shops, restaurants are open again. So without trying to make anyone jealous, like we are really, really blessed.
Yeah, amazing. And it's so great that you guys have all got your whole team is there together, and I can definitely think of worse places to be locked down on than Koh Phangan.
Well, the funny thing is this is actually the birthplace of where Soma began. Like I started doing it on the beaches here with a few friends, and it's turned into this big global movement, and we all happen to be here at the same time. So we're all living together, and we've grown. I think we've doubled the number of instructors in the last couple of months, which is just incredible. So we're taking full advantage of all the time and ability we have through the internet, like this miracle that we've got at our fingertips to communicate with people around the world. Yeah,
it really is incredible. It really is such a blessing. I mean, could you imagine doing this without internet? We would be really, really cut off. And I think it's very, very interesting as well to see through this how people have really opened up and become very creative and innovative in how they use the internet to communicate with people, to share their gifts with people. So I think that's amazing.
Oh, totally.
And so So what is the feeling around Koh Phangan? Like, what is the collective feeling that you're tapping into, not just around Koh Phangan, but in general as well? Because you seem to be pretty grounded and pretty happy and pretty productive in this space. But, through your clients and things like that you have all over the world, what is the general feeling and consensus at this time?
Of course, yeah. So it really depends on where in the world you are. So, certain places are really affected by this situation, especially like England, where I'm actually from, and certain states in America. And actually, through our Soma community, I actually made a post like, has anyone got coronavirus or been affected by coronavirus? And actually, no one had within our 20,000 plus kind of group membership in our on Facebook, which was interesting. But I do know that there's a polarization. So some people are very, very kind of scared, and really strictly kind of adhering to all the rules. And then there's the others who are, playing by the rules, but they're very open-minded to figuring out what is really going on and questioning the the official narrative and the status quo because it's their, I think it's their right to question things and not just follow orders blindly. And I'm like that. My mindset is like
Yeah.
that. I'm not very good with authority. I like to question what I'm being told to do, especially when it's a forced thing. And so there is actually now a bit of a polarization. I've noticed there's a True Colors. You know that song, True Colors? Yeah, that's really been uh, coming up for me, like in terms of like people that you met in person who are really like thought they were really good friends or whatever, and they just turn on you for having a slightly different opinion or questioning things. And this label of conspiracy theorist is really being pushed around. Everyone who has any kind of question of what is really going on is labeled instantly a conspiracy theorist. Where I'd like to change that label to a sensible person, because
Yeah.
if we just blindly follow things, look at history, where people have just blindly followed rules from above and what's happened as a result. I'm not going to go into it. You just have to look at history, do a bit of history research, and you'll see even where that term conspiracy comes from and conspiracy theorist comes from and how it's used as a propaganda tool to misdirect people. And,
Yeah, I've
I
seen the
yeah,
polarization of that as well, actually, because
yeah,
I've seen, it's actually healthy. It's actually part of the democratic process to question
yes,
and to have an understanding of policy. And so that's actually a really healthy part of the democratic process. And we are actually all responsible citizens when we do that, when we do question the things that come from our governments and things like
totally.
that. And this label conspiracy theorists, like, there is that. There's definitely things that I don't subscribe to that are, very off the wall and, very anti-establishment. And I think what the kind of people that you're talking about is not necessarily anti-establishment. It's just like, where are we going as a collective? And we're all accountable for our own input in that
Yeah,
space.
well, when
And
civil
that's not
liberties,
conspiracy theory.
yeah, when
Yeah.
civil liberties, our freedoms are at stake, we really must question uh,
Mm,
the actions, of authority,
yeah.
because that can end in a really bad situation. So these are the times when we really must question it, when laws are being put in place and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But
And
I'm
I think
not.
in the
I'm
same.
yeah. Yeah, I'm not going
So I
against the
think in the
system
same.
or anything. I'm not
No, no, I know
anti-vax or
you,
anything
because
like
and
that.
you're not.
Yeah.
And I think in the same space as well is that we need to, we need to hold some space for our leaders as well, and pray for them, and hold some space for them, because this is also something that they've never seen before in their lifetime as
Mm.
well, and they're trying to navigate it. They're trying to make really, really difficult decisions, whether to keep economies shut and people are starving if the economies are shut, or whether to open and expose the risk for this virus. And so they're also in a difficult space. And then there are others that really need to be questioned and understand what is going on behind the scenes here.
Oh, totally.
And
Yeah,
so,
totally.
yeah.
Mm.
And so healthy questioning is always encouraged. And definitely here at the Hadassah Collective, that's what we're all about. And I think that's what's really interesting, is a really interesting segue actually into your story, because
Mm.
you originally were a pharmacist, a traditional pharmacist, and you learned, or through school, you learned the status quo, really, and
Yeah.
in terms of medicine and in terms of health. And when it came to your own health, when that system failed you, that really gave birth to what is now Soma breathwork, and such a huge, incredible movement. And
Yes.
so let's lead into that. Let's start from the beginning. And how did you get on this path? And what did your early life look like? Where were you from? Where did you go to school?
Yeah,
And we'll
sure.
start there.
So we're from probably the same country, England. I think that's your roots as well, right?
I went to school in England.
Yeah.
I have a very strange. I was born in America, but I went to school in England. So yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay, cool. Yeah. And so I obviously I grew up there, and I have Indian parents who are very academically driven. My mum's a doctor, and a lot of my family are like relatives are like doctors and pharmacists and things like that. So I kind of got pushed into the pharmacy or into the medical field, and pharmacy is the thing that I chose at the time. But I wasn't really aware of so much about what it means to be a pharmacist until I actually finished university and ended up working in the pharmacy. And that's when I started to realize like there was something not right with this system, because I'm an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs like to solve problems, right? And make things better. That's really what we try to do. And I just felt there were so many holes in this pharmaceutical business in terms of what is the goal of a pharma? What are we trying to do here? If the goal is to make loads of money, it's a really good business. Fantastic, very successful. But if the goal is to actually help patients get better, uh, it's terrible. It doesn't do a good job at all. It does a good job in terms of like emergency situations. So, there are hospital pharmacists that give life-saving medicines to emergency
yeah,
situations, like if you have an accident, if you need like heart surgery, or if you have an acute infection, they are brilliant at that. But when it comes to the diseases of lifestyle, chronic diseases, which is what majority of people are getting, they're not so good at it, at dealing with it, because drugs,
yeah,
unfortunately, are not intelligent. So, you end up taking a plethora of different pills to modulate certain factors in your chemistry, in your biology, which can lead to side effects because they're not intelligent. They just do that one job of like bringing down like a cholesterol, for example. But cholesterol is really important for producing healthy cells, hormones, and especially brain cells as well. So by depleting cholesterol, for example, in your body, natural production of cholesterol, it can lead to so many severe consequences, which I started to see very apparently. Also, things like diabetes, taking medicines for that, it's just like putting a band-aid on the situation. Like, most people, the reason why they get diabetes, type 2 we're talking about, is because they're consuming stuff that is triggering, like high sugar in the bloodstream, which leads to diabetes.
yeah,
So lots of sugar, lots of carbs, refined carbs, factory-based foods. So all of these things can be solved by lifestyle changes. And this is what I started to do in the pharmacies. I started to really help patients. I used to write shopping lists for patients based on their conditions, on how to like make normal food, like meals for themselves, rather than buying microwave meals in the supermarket. And actually, like you'd be surprised at how few people made their own food. Like so many people, I'd say majority of people would just buy processed, ready-made meals. Okay,
wow,
and I had to start teaching people actually in the short time that I had on how to make their own food. So like luckily on YouTube there were loads of little recipe tutorials, simple things people can make, and I would direct people to those, and I would like give them shopping lists on things to buy, like simple things like just healthy smoothies, with that would be sugar free and be replacements to the amount of Coca-Cola people were drinking every day. It was unbelievable the amount of fizzy drinks people
yeah,
drank, and coffee with tons of sugar in it and things like that. So I had to kind of do a bit of re-education. And those who followed my advice got significantly better. And I even had doctors phoning me up telling me, this is amazing, keep going, keep doing what you're doing, this is next level. Anyway, that led
wow,
me to being promoted to head office, one of the biggest corporations. And I was going to do a really novel project for them until 6 months into it, it got shelved. And I also saw what it's like to work in a corporate head office of a huge corporation who has so many different vested interests and things that suppress, often the right thing for people. Even though their intention is to do the right thing, sometimes other things get in the way of that. And I got so disillusioned because I was trying to help people. I thought I could have made a huge impact. And I
Yeah.
was facing going back to being a pharmacist. And, I'd worked so hard to get out of that career into something more like that was more aligned with who I am.
Impactful.
And the fear kicked in, the disillusionment, the lack of connection to spirit. And I just lost faith in humanity. And literally, it was like a lightning bolt struck me. And I got this chronic illness called ulcerative colitis. Ended up housebound for a year. And I'd lost like 3 stone in weight, which is like about 25 kg or something like that. And I was going to toilet like 40 times a day, bleeding, and the drugs had stopped working. And then there was a point where I had to make a choice. Literally, I went to see the doctor, because the consultant, and they said that because nothing's working for you, you've got 2 choices. Either you have your colon removed, or you become a guinea pig for a new drug that hasn't even been tested before. And I was just not happy about either of those situations, and I was really desperate. And they say God stands for gift of desperation. And literally at that moment, I prayed, and luckily by fate, a dear friend of our family now, Swami Ambikananda, she's a yoga teacher in the UK. She taught me, she basically said to me, you've got a gift here. If you can transform it, if you can get over this, you'll be an amazing role model to other people. And she taught me the foundations of pranayama, Ayurveda, yoga, going back to my roots. And I'm very skeptical, but I was in such a desperate situation that I just followed it. And within a
Yeah.
few months, I got back to normal. It made me go really deep into these subjects myself. I did my own research, started studying and looking for people who'd actually healed themselves from this condition naturally. And eventually, within a few months, I was back to normal. And I made a pact that I was going to do whatever I can, put science to this, to spread this awareness to as many people as possible, with the science, with the proof, with the evidence. And that eventually led to what we've got created with Soma Breath, which is really focused a lot on the breathing practices, because the breathing practice is something that are very easy to do, very easy to understand, and everyone can do that. Everyone can breathe, and that means that we're really working on the core of where disease comes from, and that is the nervous system. And with the breath, we can actually influence the nervous system and the chemistry of the body instantly. So this is why we're having such good results. And then that becomes a gateway to people going deeper into these subjects.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. You touched on something as well when you're talking about Western medicine, and I love how you don't disregard it completely, and you do acknowledge the space it has in terms of life-saving situations, when you have an accident or something like this. And Western medicine has really revolutionized the medical industry in that space. But do you agree that we've sort of lost our way? And we've got it a little bit confused. We've got it a little turned around the wrong way. From my perspective, this is how I see it, is that the ancient practices like Ayurveda are a lifestyle. And it's really about balancing all of the doshas, and it's a lifestyle of doing that. And that's how you maintain wellness. And whereas we've got it confused, and we've turned to Western medicine maintaining us, we've turned Western medicine into a lifestyle. And then suddenly when Western medicine fails us, we go, oh, we should maybe try Ayurveda, but it doesn't work like that. Ayurveda is a lifestyle to be practiced. And then Western medicine, if there is an emergency, then we can include that. So how do you feel about that? Yeah.
So the problem is, and let's be brutally honest here, pharmacy is a business, right? And there's money to be made at it. And if you an entrepreneur and you understand marketing and profit and things like that, the cures are bad for business, okay? Because there's this new emergence of this gene therapies and things like that, which could actually be potential cures for such. And they actually say cures are potentially bad for business. So they even admit it. And it's true, because if you cure someone, then that's it. They're not a customer anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, like to make as much money as possible, you want somebody to take a pill for the rest of their life, or plethora of pills for the rest of their life. That's really how you're going to make the most money. So if you just put yourself in the position of being the CEO of the biggest drug companies, then this is probably what they're thinking, because that's what the results are showing us, is that most people are taking pills for lifestyle issues, and they're taking plethora of these pills because sometimes you need pills to suppress the side effects of other pills, and that means that you end up having customers for life, and
Yeah.
crazy amounts of money is being made. So then what happens is then people become dependent on these things, and they stop looking at what is the real cause of these conditions in the first place. And they are lifestyle things. So Ayurveda
Yeah.
is a lifestyle guide for your health, and it takes into account how you look, your how you think, your you know, a lot of things about how you are under different stressful situations. There's a whole questionnaire that you do to figure out your dosha type, which determines then the kinds of foods that are good for you, the kinds of exercises, the way you breathe. There's a whole prescription based
Yeah.
on your dosha types in Ayurveda. And then there's different herbs, there's different you know, concoctions that you can create with these Ayurvedic medicines. And this is the thing. So there's no one size fits all in Ayurveda. Whereas what reductionist science does, which is what Western medicine is it tries to put a blanket on uh, every single person, and makes it seem like every single person is the same, okay, and that we're all the same. But unfortunately, we're not. We're not rational. We're not linear creatures. We are actually completely irrational, and we're non-linear, all right, because we are more like a whole bundle of different chemicals, nervous impulses, different environmental factors, the environment we live in, even our upbringing, you know, in the 7 years of a life, and our habits and thoughts and our mental state, so many different factors that determines our true health. And so it's very hard to say that one pill for everyone is going to fix uh, a disease. You know, it
Yeah.
just doesn't work like that, and the results show themselves. And actually, the problem with that is that then you get side effects, and then you end up taking pills for the side effects. But with Ayurveda, you can actually create a lifestyle for different conditions. And here's the thing. So I use this analogy. So if you bash your head against the wall, right, you need ice to bring the swelling down. Okay. But if you keep bashing your head against the wall, you're going to need more and more ice to bring the swelling down. And eventually it's going to get out of control. You know, it doesn't matter how much ice you got, the swelling is just going to keep getting worse, and you're going to end up in a serious trauma. And that's the thing. So the pills are like the ice, but Ayurveda is like telling the person to stop banging the head against the wall. Do you know what I mean? That's what
Yeah.
Ayurveda does, and it gives
Yeah.
them the strategy on how to do that. So what? So in some cases, people have got a disease that has become very inflammatory. So there's a deep amount of
Yeah.
inflammation going on, and in those emergency situations, some of these medications can actually be life-saving, for sure. But
Yeah.
then if the person keeps bashing their head against the wall, you're going to need more and more pills, different types of pills, to treat that situation. Whereas if you just teach them the right lifestyle, the right way to
Yeah.
live in your environment, the right way to think, how to find a career that's suited to you, all these different factors, how to deal with a relationship, how to live your life, you know, a relationship that hasn't worked out, stress and all this stuff, and even how to breathe properly, which is what we're really focused on, because that has the most
Yeah.
impact on your health instantly. Uh, then we can actually really start to solve these problems. So this is what we need to do. We need to have more people out there trained to solve lifestyle condition issues. And doctors know this. Doctors know that we need this. They're actually encouraging people to get out there. You know, in England, actually, like there's some big shifts happen. Like there is a field of complementary therapy, and pharmacists are becoming more like lifestyle coaches. There are different career paths opening up, because they've realized that in order to save the National Health Service, we need to solve these problems. And more
Yeah.
evidence and more awareness is coming at how much of an impact diet, nutrition, exercise, all these things have. So there is a shift, that we are moving towards a more enlightened healthcare system for sure. But there is still a lot of pressure and a lot of obstacles in the way that we're going to need to get past. And this coronavirus situation has definitely highlighted this and made me more aware of how powerful the media is at kind of hypnotizing people into a certain way of thinking. And I haven't seen any mainstream media channel talk about prevention when it comes to viruses, how to
Yeah.
support the immune system. I don't know a single place. There is now certain reports coming out. I don't know if they're in all the mainstream media channels, but like about the gut microbiome and how to look after gut and
Yes.
how that improves your immune system and your chances of dealing with viruses. There are now studies coming out about vitamin D and how deficient people who get coronavirus are of vitamin D. So there are Harvard studies that have shown the effectiveness of vitamin D at suppressing cold and flu and preventing cold and flus. It's just incredible. All that knowledge is out there. You can look this all up. So, why not encourage like vitamin C supplementation, vitamin D supplementation, all these different ways we can do exercise at home, yoga techniques for clearing the lymphatic system, you know. And the idea of shunning people away from sunlight and not being able to exercise and do things like that, and wearing masks all day long where you're breathing in your own kind of carbon dioxide that can actually affect your own, physiology in a negative way. And, just weird. It's weird. Like these ideas that are being pushed in this lockdown are going against our own natural immune system. And I really hope that people wake up to that. It seems like they are. The policymakers wake up
Yeah.
to this.
A lot of people are, and I think a lot of people question, and very early on, sort of within this coronavirus time, I found it quite strange that there was a lot of information about washing your hands, wearing masks, everything like that, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But there was no information coming from our governments about how to boost our immune system, how to have the strongest immune system possible.
Exactly.
And I thought that was a little strange. But as I said,
Because of
they were
that,
in.
that's how
Yeah.
vaccines work. Vaccines work by helping your own immune system. It gives you a little dose of the virus so that your body creates antibodies, so that if you get a bigger hit of the virus, your body can deal with it. So really, what is it a vaccine doing? It's helping your own immune system to function better. So we can do that with other means before waiting for a vaccine to be on the market. I'm not anti-vaccines, but they need to be safe.
Yeah.
They need to be effective. They need to work before they're forced onto people. But there are so many other things we can do.
Definitely pro education, pro personal education, personal empowerment, and personal choice when it comes to things like vaccines. I mean, I'm definitely not anti-vaccines. I've had many of them, especially when I was a child. And, there are a lot of things in this world that have been really assisted by vaccines. But when it comes to a space where people are forced to take something that they've not been allowed to be educated on, I think that is something that is not okay.
No, totally not. I don't agree with that at all. Yeah.
So for the person that is listening at the moment, and they haven't had a health crisis, like it brought you, I've found a lot of commonalities in these when I've been doing these interviews, that a lot of people have come to a point where a desperation point, like you did with your ulcerative colitis, and you had to seek out. And if people are sitting here and they're listening, and they're reasonably healthy, but they're wanting to be the healthiest they can be and improve on their health and ensure that they continue to be healthy, where do they start with Ayurveda? What would be some resources that you could give for that? Are there any great books to read or experts to follow?
So there is a really good kind of book called Ayurvedic Healing by Dr. David Frawley, who's one of the America's kind of real experts on Ayurveda. He makes it very easy to understand. So I really recommend his stuff. And what you'll find is you can just do simple questions. You can answer simple questions inside his book, Ayurvedic Healing. All the questions are in there. And you can determine from that what your energy type is. There are websites out there as well, like Deepak Chopra has a quiz. I'm building one myself to make it more simple. And so there are like little quizzes you can do that quickly determines what your dosha is, your energy type is. And then from that you can actually look at the recommendations for your diet, your exercise, and even the kind of environment you should live in that's best for your energy type. So it's very simple actually, but you can also go and find a good Ayurvedic practitioner as well in your area, But there are also ones that maybe aren't so good. So you have to look at the ones that have got credibility, testimonials, and come from good recommended sources. So this would be the way to start. It's to figure out what is your dosha type, which you can do yourself. A lot of it you can actually figure out yourself. You don't even have to go and speak to an Ayurvedic doctor. But there are some really good ones who can actually even determine from your pulse certain factors about your physiology and your health. I find the really good ones who can do that are in India. They're the ones that I've met. But they're also few and far between. There's not that many. Like a lot of this information got suppressed as well from when the British took over India and changed the whole educational system. A lot of this information got lost over time. But there are still some places, like in Mysore, where you can actually, where there's a lot more of that sacred kind of knowledge and the wisdom was more preserved in places like Mysore, up in the Himalayas as well. But you have to go.
Do you think it's interesting? It's very interesting as well that as the Western countries are actually all sort of coming around and flipping around to this as well and saying, oh, hang on a second, there was a lot of wisdom in this Eastern philosophy and this Eastern medicine, and these practices can really assist people. So I think even in Australia as well, there's a big push. A lot of insurance companies now cover for alternative healing, like acupuncture and things like this. And
well, actually, Prince Charles is a huge fan of Ayurveda, and he actually went there not so long ago, and he gets treatment done as well. You can look that up. Just type in Prince Charles Ayurveda. You can see who his Ayurvedic doctor is in India, and go and check him out yourself. But there is also, let me just get this. Somebody sent me another really good clinic. I'm going to go there as soon as we can get out of here, of this lockdown. I can come back to India. I'm going to actually go and visit Dr. Jag Therapy in Mysore.
We'll put the details for that center in Mysore into the show notes as well, so it's available for everyone. And it's very interesting, these sorts of things that you uncover, because one of the reasons for starting this podcast actually, or one of the things that I found when I moved to India several years ago, I was so excited. It was one of the most, one of the biggest bonuses of me moving to India, that I was finally going to be in the home of yoga and the home of Ayurveda. And when I moved to Bombay, I had very naive ideas about, that we're going to be so immersed in this. When I moved to Bombay, I realized that a lot of, there isn't actually a lot of that. You have to go searching for it. And that's kind of the point of. Yeah, that's kind of the point of this podcast, is to bring some of those incredible gems of wisdom that are in India to the forefront and make them available to a lot of people, because I think a lot of people are in a similar space where they recognize that, certainly some of my relatives, they recognize that this road that we're going down with being heavily dependent on pharmaceuticals is not a great space to be, and it's not a space for optimum health and optimum lifestyle and vitality. And so we're returning to these more holistic practices, and I think that's really powerful, because I love that kind of thing anyway. But I think it's really powerful as a society because it gives us, again, more of a sense of our own independence and our own autonomy in regards to our health. And I think that that can only ever be a good thing. And so then we moved into, so then once you discovered Ayurveda, and you started practicing yoga, and you really focus on the breath work, on the pranayama, and you have some amazing practices for this. And so tell us a little bit more about what you guys do at Soma, because you've had some incredible results with people, like really mind-blowing results with people's health as well. So tell us something about that.
For sure, yeah. So pranayama literally means energy control. It's one of the foundational branches of yoga, very important core part of it. And it's often misunderstood or overlooked in terms of importance. And it's amazing how few people I met in India actually are even aware of what really pranayama is, even though it supposedly originates from there. So what I discovered was the power of just very simple breathing techniques and its influence on your physiology. And through understanding breathing and the mechanism of breathing, how it impacts the production of energy in the body. And according to the quantum science, energy and matter it coexist same time. Energy equals matter. It's aduality. Actually, that's another Advaita philosophy is another is a Vedic kind of philosophy. Is a yoga philosophy, which is the energy and matter equal the aduality, and that E equals M basically, not E equals MC squared, but E equals M, and the quantum world, this new emerging field of quantum science. Uh, you could say the Upanishads was like uh, they were already very
Yeah.
aware of this, and the Upanishads was actually the kind of the early like blueprint of quantum science, because actually a lot of what we are now discovering through the quantum world has been described in similar ways in Sanskrit in
Yeah.
the Upanishads. So yeah, so basically, um, what pranayama literally means is energy control. So through the breath, we can actually control the energy production in the body, and this happens in the mitochondria. And according to pranayama as well, so by modulating the energy within, will have an influence on the energy around us. And this is what yoga is. It's the union of the inner world with the outer world. That's what yoga pretty much means. And so pranayama is a series of techniques which actually allows you to have a control of energy in your body, the production of energy, which involves either breathing practices or a combination of breathing and movement. And these are energy moving practices. So through this, we can actually change the inner environment and create a more healthy environment for our cells of the body, our nervous system. And this can directly actually have an effect on our outer world environment. That's the philosophy of it. And actually, this kind of makes sense if you look at it scientifically. So when you breathe in oxygen, and it burns with glucose to produce like a fire, an inner fire inside the mitochondria, which produces ATP. And ATP is like a light energy, a biophotonic light energy, which is a communicational energy method between every cell. It's how every cell communicates with each other through like photonic energy. So we are really like light bodies. This whole new age term of being a light being.
Yeah.
We are through the way we communicate with each cell. It's through light energy. So even through certain breathing practices, you can create like a harmony between the communication between every cell. Because the understanding is that when there's a disharmony in the nervous system, in the energy of a person, being, this is what leads to disease. So pranayama really is all about bringing back a balance within the nervous system to get rid of, to avoid disease from occurring. And just simple practices every single day you can do can actually have a big impact in this. And another thing, according to pranayama, is like the way it was evolved was from studying animals in nature. And what they realized was that animals that live a very long period of time, they breathe very slowly. So elephants and turtles, they have very slow breathing rates, like 2 to 4 breaths per minute. Animals that don't live a very long time, like mice, rodents, squirrels, things like that, they breathe very fast, like 30, 40 breaths per minute. Humans have the conscious ability to control the rate of our breath. And so we can consciously control the breath. And therefore, through breathing practices, the logic is that we can actually expand our lifestyle. Like, really, we should be living above 100 years. Okay? And the guy who coined the term oxidative stress, called Helmut Sees, he's a very famous scientist who says that although it's impossible for us to live without oxygen, it's also very difficult for us to live with oxygen because of this problem of oxidative stress. When you produce energy in the body, it's like creating a fire inside. You produce free radicals and reactive oxygen species that actually can damage cells and cause inflammation. So over-breathing is a big problem, and over-breathing is associated with where you have a lot of emotional stress and your body thinks you need to fight or flight, and you produce a lot of adrenaline, and you start to breathe faster and produce more fire inside than you actually need, more pitta energy than you actually need. So actually, breath control, like pranayama, is actually a way to over time become very efficient at using oxygen. So you need less oxygen to breathe, to create energy. Sorry. So therefore, if your natural resting breathing rate will go down when you do certain pranayama techniques, which means your breathing is much slower. And actually, yogis who are very, very well trained, they breathe through their nose and it's silent. And it's not about deep breathing or anything like that. You'll see a yogi, a true yogi, will actually have very silent breath. They breathe through the nose. The nose is like a filter of air. So it also warms the air a bit, it prepares your air for oxygenation. It's what we should be breathing through. They don't breathe through their mouth. And actually, every time you talk, you actually over-breathe. You breathe out a lot of carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide is really important gas. Okay, the carbon dioxide is what allows the oxygen in your red blood cells to go into the cells where it needs to go. If we talk a lot, if we over-breathe, if we're stressed out, we actually don't have enough carbon dioxide, and that oxygen stays stuck to your red blood cells, and that's what leads to inflammation and then heart disease eventually. So actually, pranayama is all about raising your tolerance to carbon dioxide so you can handle more levels of carbon dioxide. It's all about having a better vascularization, which means better blood flow around your body. It's also about having more efficient mitochondria, so you need the least amount of oxygen to breathe. And this is a reason why yogis go and live up in high
altitudes,
mountains where the oxygen levels are very low, carbon dioxide levels are high. You know, like Mount Everest, for example. At the top of Mount Everest, the oxygen levels are super low. And it's the same as when you're in the womb. Your oxygen levels in the womb you're in a very hypoxic condition.
How interesting.
And what happens then is you're actually full of stem cells. Stem cells hate oxygen. Stem cells are cells that can turn into any other cell in the body. Soon as you're born, you get a lot of oxygen, and the stem cells disappear and they hide in areas of very low oxygen, like your bone marrow and other areas where there's healthy cells surrounding them, which means that the normal cells, surrounding them, which means the stem cells are in a hypoxic, low oxygen environment. That's the only way they can survive, but they're inactive. And the stem cells are only triggered into action when there's certain conditions. So low oxygen environments can trigger stem cells to wake up. Trauma can trigger them to wake up. And stem cells are a big field of research right now. There's more and more research going into stem cells, and because they have the power to dramatically lower inflammation and grow new cells. But through certain breathing techniques, we can actually wake up their function. And that technique, the most revered technique of all in pranayama, is called kumbhaka. This is what we form a lot of our basis around, is kumbhaka, breath retention, where you can create certain conditions in the body where you produce a positive stress response in the body. You create a positive release of adrenaline and positive stress hormones that actually creates a strengthening and adaptive response to the body. You get more red blood cells, you get better vascularization in your body, you become more efficient in use oxygen, and over time your breathing rate goes down, and actually you can activate stem cells into circulation, which means that you lower inflammation over time and you regenerate cells that are dying. You get new growth of new tissue, new muscle mass. And there's certain exercises you can do using breath control techniques, certain yoga asanas you can do, certain ways of doing physical exercise, high intensity exercise, which actually also activates them and leads to a much healthier cardiovascular system. And actually the number one killer in the world is heart disease, not viruses, not infections, not anything else. It's heart disease. So if we can prevent heart disease, we can actually prolong our life. And all of these techniques, from looking at it and really studying it from a medical perspective, from the ancient tantric yoga, which has been preserved in the Himalayas and also found in places like Tibet. It's not the kind of modern day yoga that we see today, which is more like flowing from one pose to the next and only focus on asana. The true traditional yoga, which is actually more like the Raja yoga, which has been preserved in the Himalayas still, which is what we're bringing to life. And I have a doctor who's works with us in Soma, who I studied with, who actually is based in Haridwar, who's an absolute genius. He wrote a book called A Medical Understanding of Yoga. I recommend everybody gets it. It's called Prakash Malsh. He's amazing. There's another doctor called Dr. B.M. Hegde. He's actually one of India's most famous doctors. He's won like the best awards there. All the politicians go to see him when they get sick. Royal families go to see him because he's so amazing. These people are advocates of this ancient traditional form of yoga and breathing practices, and they actually are showing how you can use allopathic kind of conventional medicine alongside these practices to create a much superior system for health than separate. And with these breathing practices, actually you can have profound impacts on your brain, your cognitive function, your mental health, your ability to get stuff done, to have more fun in your life, your enthusiasm for life. So what I've done is I've taken a lot of this knowledge, I've dissected it, I've created into a system that's really easy to follow and understand. I'm also a music producer, so I've gone back into my passion for music. I discovered how music was actually a spiritual thing, which was used to actually accompany spiritual practices, especially breathing practices, from like African tribal drumming and rhythm to Indian ragas and mantra singing, kirtans, things like that. And I've taken these aspects, modernized it, made it more fun, and added science to it, and added the breathing practices to it, and created a system which we call the Soma breath protocols, where you're using breathing practices followed by these breath retention techniques that are powerful, super powerful, and create really dramatic shifts in people's health. And you can go into our Soma Breath group. You can see the amount of testimonials we have, the incredible feedback we get from people from all different areas. People who are not healthy to people who are actually very healthy but are using it for peak performance and having really amazing results with their ability to get stuff done, be more productive and efficient.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. Yeah. I think the program that you guys have put together is really incredible. And it's really brought these ancient techniques into the modern day. And I love that you have this background in Western medicine as well. So it's really where science and mysticism meets. And I love this in this quantum science space that we're in now, that it's really like science is kind of catching up with the mysticism, and I love that crossover space where science is proving what we've already known for thousands of years through mysticism. And I
Yes.
think it's really beneficial to society to have these techniques, and this Soma breath work that you've brought in as well, that makes it very accessible to people to fit into their modern lives. Like, we all can't go and live like a yogi in a cave in the Himalayas, to be able to do this, but we want some of these techniques to just better our everyday life. And so I think it's really incredible that you've done that. And so before we are actually going to do a breathwork practice today, which is amazing. And thank you for bringing that for us, Niraj. But before we get into that, is there any other sort of who are your mentors? Who have you really looked up to, either in your personal life, or celebrities, or well-known figures? Who really inspires you, and who do you look up to?
Okay, that's a cool question. So actually, the first time I ever heard anyone talk about like holistic health in terms of exercise, nutrition, diet, and like changing your lifestyle to get healthy, was actually Tony Robbins. This was in 2007 when I went to I got actually dragged to his event. This was when my low point as a pharmacist. I was really suffering. I just lost my way, my passion for life. And he was the first one who really kind of woke me up to the healing power of the body. And that's what inspired me to start helping patients in my daily practice. I had amazing results with that.
Yeah.
But then what happened was then I really went deep into these practices myself. And my Swami was a big role model. My Swami Ambikananda, she's amazing. She has a big yoga school in the UK, which is really good. Traditionalyoga.org, I think it is their website. And she taught me a lot about Ayurveda and these ancient practices from India. And that led me into discovering like Dr. David Frawley, who I mentioned before. And I studied a lot of his work on Ayurveda because he translates things very well and gets good results. Deepak Chopra was obviously an inspiration with his book Quantum Healing. That definitely opened my eyes. But then in more recent times, as I really went into music and music therapy, and I started to create techniques and therapeutic music that a lot of like famous therapists now use. One of them, Marissa Peer, who really taught me a lot about the mind and the power of the mind, and hypnosis, the power of words and language. I also learned like NLP from people like Richard Bandler, my friend John Vincent. He's trained directly with him, and he taught me a lot about the mind and the magic and the power of words and visualization techniques. So he was a big inspiration, John Vincent. And then there was some books that I read, like Prometheus Rising by Robert Anton Wilson. It's one of the best books, I'd say, on the understanding why we are what we are. Like, really, it's like a translation of enlightenment, how to become enlightened. And it's a study of the consciousness and how our consciousness is programmed and a product of our environment. And he actually has translated basically the work of Timothy Leary, who was one of the first therapists to use LSD, psychotherapists. But he's a very controversial guy. But he wrote a book on the Eighth Circuit model of human consciousness, which was also a map of the chakra system in yoga. And so Rob Anton Wilson's work's amazing, Timothy Leary. And then that also got me into people like Stanislav Grof, holotropic breathwork, learning about breathing techniques like that, Leonard Orr, rebirthing. But then really what really got me very hooked on the science of breathing, really understanding yoga from a medical perspective, physiological perspective, was Dr. Prakash Marsh, who's a very big mentor of mine, I'd say, big influence. And then actually my journey also led me to teaming up with Wim Hof, you may have heard of. He's a superhuman,
Yeah.
Iceman, broke loads of records. I ended up making the soundtrack to his courses, and he really goes deep on breath retention and these kumbhaka
Yeah.
techniques. And he showed me the power of what's possible in terms of peak performance and endurance. And he's an amazing guy who, reads and writes Sanskrit. He really has a deep knowledge of these ancient practices and is an embodiment of them. And I was very fortunate to have him as a friend and mentor, working so closely with him. Then Dr. B.M. Hegde, who I think should be everyone's mentor, everyone's guru. He's amazing. He has so many free videos on YouTube where he's done these powerful presentations where he's really good at articulating difficult subjects and making it easy to understand with loads of references. He is the man, I'm telling you, like, that India needs to really listen to at this time especially. So yeah, there's been people like that over the years who've come together, and I've actually also got like mentors in my who have helped me with my own business. Like, I think there's like health mentors, but there's also business mentors. People who are amazing at growing movements and business. Like John Davey, who's actually the husband of Marissa Peer. He's built an amazing online school and certification with Marissa, and they have many, many Marissa Peer instructors out there now doing hypnotherapy. And he's really guided me for many years. We've been friends for many years into becoming a successful entrepreneur. I've also met the founder of Zumba, Jeffrey Perlman, who's a very close friend and mentor and amazing visionary on how to create movements. So we're actually being mentored by Zumba themselves. So I've been very fortunate to have, like, through just following my passion, amazing people come into my life. Actually, another guy I can't not mention is a guy called Safdar Jaffrey. He's actually Indian, but his company, believe it or not, was basically the company that produced some of the best bands that came out of England. Coldplay, Radiohead, Muse. He managed Muse himself. He made Muse into the biggest rock band in the world. And he actually managed me as an artist for a while. But he actually was like, look, don't get into the music industry because it's a hostile, cutthroat industry. It'll ruin your character. It's not what you're about. And we tried a little bit. We even were going to create big rock concerts in India. That was one of the things we were going to do. We went out there. We met loads of the heads of like Virgin and Sony and all these Saregama in India, and we met all these people, but it never took off like in the way we expected. So he was like, look, focus on what you're doing with pharmacy, because I'd always come home and rant about stuff in the pharmacy industry that I didn't feel was like the best it could be. And he would be like, look, there's something in this farm. And he became a mentor of getting me into doing the kind of work I'm doing now, and using music more as a therapeutic tool, and really gave me a lot of encouragement on that. So I've had some amazing role models from different areas of my life, and not just one side. And I think it's important to have role models and mentors from different areas of life.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. To really surround yourself with those people that are going to see something in you that you maybe don't see in yourself, and also that can just uplift you and expand you into what is possible in different aspects as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important. It's really powerful. And now, moving sort of back into the quarantine situation or the lockdown situation, the countries are now starting to open up, Thailand being one of them. The cases are beginning to drop, and we're sort of moving out of these things, and everyone is in a huge rush to get back to normal. Normal. And but I sort of want to take this time to question, what is worth rushing back to, and what is the normal that we're worth rushing back to. So is there something in this time that you've really found joy in this time that you don't in your everyday normal quote unquote life? And are there other things that you've decided, you know what, I'm not going to return back to that, I in that space?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I've been really loving this time to just basically be really focused on what we're doing with Soma and
Yeah,
building our team and strengthening what we're doing with our team, which is all just living together. And I love the community spirit we have on this island, which is amazing. So having everyone together, and we've decided we're all going to like keep this community vibe going with the company as we move forward. We'll probably go to Bali at some point as well, which is also a really cool place, very inspirational place.
yeah.
Um, I've also spent a lot of time making more music and getting really creative, which has been really cool. So that's been very fortunate. I have a lot of time. I have amazing musicians on this island. Some of the best musicians I've ever met happen to also be quarantined here. They're our Soma kind of musicians and artists, but we've had a lot of opportunity to
Fantastic.
go deep on that and make some really interesting music. In fact, I just released an album as well with Wim Hof that I finished off some of the tracks during this time. You can get it on if you go to his YouTube channel, type in Wim Hof music. It's called Set You Free, the album. It's quite a apt name for right now, Set You Free for a
Yeah.
quarantine. But it's like had like 150,000 views already in like a week since we put the video up, which is amazing. So yeah, you can check that out. So a lot of creativity being happening.
Incredible.
Things I won't go back
Yeah.
to. Well, actually, to be honest, like not a lot has changed for me. I haven't really changed that much. I think one thing I've realized a lot from this is the polarization on Facebook, social media. And I've been really debating, do I really want to engage with that kind of war that's going on right now on social media?
Yeah.
So spending less time engaging in stuff that we have no control over and just focusing more on
Yeah.
what we can control and being really good. I've spent a lot of time here doing exercise and yoga and keeping up the practices. And I think not a lot has changed for me because we run an online business. A lot of what we do is online. For other people, they're having to learn this for the first time, because maybe they
Yeah.
don't have a job to go back to. So one of the things we're doing, focusing a lot on with Soma, is really focusing a lot on this opportunity we have with the internet and building the online community and teaching our instructors to really learn and master the art of online marketing and reaching people through the internet and the various tools that we have like this, like we're using right now. So yeah, so this has just been a great, creative, productive time to really go deep. It's really made me aware of uh, what's going on in the world, what really is going on, and how kind of awakened a lot of people are becoming. But at the same time,
Yeah.
there's also a polarization. There's the others who will refuse to question anything. And, so yeah, it's an interesting time. A lot of awareness of the world and how it works.
Very interesting time. And so how do you see us moving through this, moving out of this as a collective society? And what are some of the steps that you've taken to prepare for that? Without being, very crystal ball gazing or future predicting or anything like that, just how we're moving out of this.
I think we need to really understand human rights and how that they can be taken away by authorities under certain situations like war, for example, and to really know your rights, get to know things like that. What is under, what is really what human rights are, civil liberties. So we need to understand that. We need to go and become aware of that stuff. Um, Other things is, okay, let's say there is a genuine threat from a virus. What are all of the holistic things that you can do for prevention? Okay, so going deep on that, becoming aware of the mind-body connection and how much your emotions and fear impacts your own health. So really understanding fear and these emotions that can be triggered a lot in these sorts of situations. We teach a lot of this stuff in our Soma breath courses. Like our 21-day journey goes deep on all these things. And then also I think the world is going to change dramatically. A lot of jobs are not going to exist because it was inevitable anyway, because so many things can be automated by robots and machines. What are we all going to do when we don't have jobs? How are we going to still survive? How are we going to get an income stream? So, we need to start thinking in terms of how can we earn an income, multiple sources of income, not just one that relies on like your physical day job, but start learning things like internet marketing and running an internet business and teaching stuff. Teaching is a very easy way to start actually earning an income online, sharing skills, teaching skills. So I think there's going to be a rise in home-based businesses, like a dramatic, significant rise. I also see there's going to be a lot of problems from this unemployment and the economy and hunger and famine that can be really a big problem, especially in places like India, if the government don't do something about it. But I'm also very confident that there are certain things happening that I can see that has prevented this from being as bad as it could have been. And I also see, I'm optimistic. I feel like we're going to bounce back from this in a way that has never been even imagined before. And I think that some of the darkness is going to be kind of disappear, and a lot more of the light is going to come to service from this. As long as we stay aware and don't blindly follow everything we're told, and we start to become self-aware and do the things that are right, And this also goes to there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of unscrupulous people who are like making actual really dodgy conspiracy theories, like legitimate negative kind of ridiculous fantasies to mislead people and capitalize on them. But then there is a lot of truth out there as well. So it's being discerning, really understanding the difference between what is just fantasy but what is also real hardcore truths. And this is a complicated thing. You have to go deep to really understand all of this. I can't really talk about it all here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have an interesting question for you on that. It's not actually part of our podcast questions, but I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and about this, and it's really, we are in a time where we're bombarded by so much conflicting information, and we don't really have we don't have a way of knowing what exactly is truth. And so these times really can't be discerned through our mind as much. So we have to really be in touch with our intuition and really sort of be connected, have that, mind, body, spirit connection to be able to navigate these times and discern these times. And so how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are just beyond our control. And if we go down too many rabbit holes, we can end up all our time being spent trying to figure things out, which we can't really control anyway. So it means that we get distracted from the things that we can control, which is our skills that we can learn, new talents, new abilities. Pretty much everything can be learned for free off YouTube. There's so many amazing educational pieces and how-to information on YouTube for free. And you can learn, this time you could spend, rather than trying to figure everything out and worry about what governments are doing and all that, we could also spend this time learning new skills, new talents.
Yeah.
Which is what I really recommend people to do. And also then trust and have faith that there is a hidden hand that is out there guiding this towards a better future. but also be self-aware of just certain
Yeah.
basic human rights, civil liberties, and know when to take a stand when you feel like they're getting threatened. I also believe that there are the right people out there, who are protecting us from that going too far.
Yeah, I'm definitely very optimistic about it myself as well. I think that we are going to come, there is massive change going on, and with massive change and growth, there is always pain and challenges, but I do really believe that we're going to come out of this much stronger, much brighter, much healthier. Our earth around us is also healing, which I think is incredible, and there's great things ahead of us. And so on that note, let's get into this breathwork practice. But before we do that, tell us where we can find you. So where can we find you online? Where can we find out more about Soma Breath and the practices that you guys do?
Okay, great. So go to somabreath.com/free, and that takes you a direct link to our masterclass where you can sign up, get a free guided meditation, as well as learn all about the breath, how it relates to your autonomic nervous system, how you can tap in and influence your physiology. You can even turn your heart rate up and turn it down at will. I actually show you how to do that, all these awesome techniques. And so that's the first step. Go there. We also have a YouTube channel. There's lots and lots of content on our Soma Breath YouTube channel where you can get a lot of free information as well. And then we have courses. So we have the 21-day journey, which is super transformational. It's a 21-day awakening journey. In 21 days, you're going to have a dramatic shift to your life. And we have also instructors leading these, guiding people through these. And you can also become an instructor yourself. There's another way for you to actually create an income stream online is by becoming a Soma Breath instructor, which we have over 600 now. And many of those are actually creating extra income streams now and doing amazing good in the world, really helping people. So join also our Facebook group,
Incredible.
Soma Breath, the Facebook group, and you'll see that we have a very thriving, busy community right now with lots of inspiring people, like-minded people. Yeah.
Amazing. So I definitely think that everybody should check that out. Niraj, thank you so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. And guys, please do check out our bonus episode where Niraj has very kindly recorded a full Soma breathwork practice so you can really get to experience and embody that quantum breathwork practice and really see the shifts and effects that you can experience after just one session.
Great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Much love. Peace.
I hope you enjoyed this episode and you got some things to take away from our amazing guests' insight. If you did enjoy this episode, please subscribe and also leave us a review. And for more information on the Hadassah Collective, you can visit our Instagram page at Hadassah Collective. I hope you'll join me again for our next episode at the same time next week. And until then, have a wonderful week.